And this is Addis Dialogue. I'm Sintayo Tamrat with this edition. Ethiopia has left only 4 months for upcoming election. And free, fair and peaceful election needs robust civil society organizations. And one such civil society organization is NEWA, Network of Ethiopian Women Association. So my guest today is SABA GEBREMEDIHN. SABA is the director of Network of Ethiopian Women's Association. Thank you for joining us, SABA.
Thank you.
Well, what are just the main areas which NEWA has focused for empowering women and their participation in political parties as well as decision making?
NEWA was established in terms of to ensure a common platform for women organizations in Ethiopia. It's not a single individual organization, it's actually an umbrella of women organizations. So in this respect, its major strategies were doing advocacy for women issues where the women organizations, the member organizations think an issue which is important for advocacy, they select that, and that's where NEWA also do advocacy. And the second thing was like supporting the member organizations, the women organizations, in terms of building their capacity through training, through providing finance and information. And the third was networking, both at local level as well as regional and national level. And the fourth was ensuring that there is government policies and instruments where Ethiopia has signed to ensure that the government is complying with these obligations that it has signed. So we were doing research and so on. So through these 4 strategic objectives, I can say NEWA has been really working with diverse groups of partnership, especially women organizations at the local level. For example, we started with 17 organizations, and then it grew to 42 at the time in 2009, just before the coming of the Charities and Societies Law. But beyond that, in terms of networking, we became members of different regional frameworks, regional platforms, such as Strategic for the Initiative of the Horn of Africa, a women organization group, where NEWA was also taking a lead, and other similar platforms. And at national level, we were working with other civil society organizations to ensure to create enabling environment for CSOs in general in Ethiopia. And in terms of monitoring government compliance, we had done a lot of research in terms of the accomplishments of the CEDAW Convention, for example, Beijing platform and other initiatives, and to see how government is really complying with its commitments. So I can say NEWA has been doing a lot of things, especially also addressing the women at the grassroots level through our women organizations by supporting these organizations in finance so that they can go and work and support, for example, defend women from gender-based violence and support women in saving and credit programs, providing alternative basic education, providing housing programs, and so on and so on. And moreover, as an advocacy organ, I think NEWA has been very consistent in terms of its position in defending women's rights issues, whether in good times or in bad times.
You have already just mentioned that you have been addressing a wide range of issues and also addressing the grassroots level women. So do you think that you have achieved your goals over the past 15 or 10 years? And if you say so, what are the major achievements that you can mention and which are tangible?
During the last few years, we can talk about it later. There has been some discontinuation because of some challenges that the organization has faced because of its form of registration as an Ethiopian society, where it was not able to receive many of its funds that it used to manage, at least. So, but in terms of its goal, NEWA has managed to accomplish that. It has to stay as a voice, as a common voice for women groups, whether young women or older women, or women groups or student groups, we always have taken issues of women on the forefront. So, and that was the major goal that NEWA was established, to create a common platform and a voice for the women issues at a national level, rather than one organization talking about a certain issue or another organization talking about a certain issue, coming together, all organizations coming together and having a say in one agenda. And secondly, we have managed in terms of bringing women to participate in policy issues, so that the women issue is really reflected in whatever the government plans, development plans, you can say, policies and other things, laws including. So we have brought women's representation not only in terms of their number, but in terms of their voice into the policies.
So what problems have you just encountered so far in your process?
NEWA, after establishment in 2003, the first challenge was in 2009, because at the time we were almost from infant level, we were growing up and getting matured at the time, because NEWA had started with 2 staff or 3 staff, but at that time we had almost 11, 13, 14 staffs together, and we have been managing almost 5, 6 programs, projects, and at the same time a large amount of funding, and we were supporting more than 20 organizations under our umbrella to undertake programs. So when the former Charities and Societies law came in 2009, and we were forced to stay as Ethiopian society, we chose, actually, we were not forced to choose, we chose to become Ethiopian societies, and being an Ethiopian society then does not allow you to receive any kind of support. At least more than 10% of your income had to come from local sources, meaning local fundraising from the public. And we had to close many of our programs because we chose to be Ethiopian society, and but we were allowed to work on women rights. We were allowed to continue what we were doing, but without finance then you cannot do anything. So we were challenged in terms of financial resources. We had to close many of our programs, we had to reduce our staffing, we had to reduce our area of work, and then also staying alive sometimes for NEWA was a bit challenging. And the second challenge came because we chose also to build a women's center, a local Ethiopian women's center. Why we thought of that was also to help us sustain our income, and also to make sure that the women's agenda will have its own monument in Ethiopia through this building. But raising the funds was not as easy as we expected it to be. Raising the funds for the center added on our position of not receiving foreign financial supporters, added on lack of human resource in the office, was a major challenge for NEWA. So after that, of course, now that the new law is changed, of course we are raising up again and restarting and doing new programs, new projects, receiving funds, and also again revitalizing the organization into its old self. But during these years, I believe that NEWA has shown its strengths in terms of, even in spite of not being allowed for funding, it stayed as an Ethiopian society, saying this is a true cause and I need to stay, as my reason for establishment is women's rights issues, not to provide services, but also to say when gender-based violence is committed, to say there is women's political participation, to talk about women's rights issues. So I cannot just forego this cause just in order for me to receive funds. And during this process also, we had to split into 2 organizations. This is a mechanism that we use to keep our members, because during that time the law also required us, if we have member organizations which were receiving funds and others who were doing on women's rights, we cannot keep the two kinds of organizations under our umbrella. So we had to take out majority of our organizations and put it in another wing called the Union of Ethiopian Charitable Association. So I believe NEWA achieved to become two at the same time, to stay as an Ethiopian society, and at the same time the organizations not to be split, but they were allowed to stay together. But the challenge was a major one, I believe, and of course, through this process, some of the programs that we have started had gone again back. The areas of attitudinal change had gone back, and most of our work has been discontinued. So I think that was a difficult time.
How about the cultural barriers, as well as the political commitment? Because we know that over the past years, some 2 decades or so, what the government does was just bringing those women who can support or who are just affiliates of its politics or the political interests of the government. And hence, can you say that you were doing the right thing? Because some people, some women are not interested in politics, but they want just to be empowered, they want to come to the top leadership position, and they are also able. But the government was not doing that. And what's your take on this?
When you are working on women's political participation, or when you are working on women's gender-based violence issues or women's economic empowerment programs, attitude, awareness are the major areas that you have to tackle. And the work that we have been working on in terms of bringing, mobilizing communities, mobilizing government, institutions, changing attitudes and practices, of course, was discontinued. And you always need to start again, because not only NEWA, but many organizations also, because they chose to be resident organizations, they were not allowed to work on this area. So the fact that we had worked on changing attitudes had also gone back, I believe, some steps back, and we have to restart that process again. So that's one challenge. But when you are working on what you said about political participation, I think it's about political participation. In terms of political participation, I don't think that was a challenge for us. The challenge was the overall general attitude of the community, the public, at the same time of the political parties as well. Because political parties are part of the society, and society thinks that politics doesn't go, they don't think politics as relating to women. They think politics as relating to a man's thing. So like when you are working on women issues, it becomes a bit effort. You need a lot of effort to ensure that. Even though people say, yeah, women can run politics, but in actual fact, in order when they mobilize their constituency as political parties, they don't go to the women, they go to men. If they want candidates, they go to men rather than going to women. But at a later stage, they will think, oh, I need to have women also participating in my actions, whether it's a politics or anything. So they start to look around for women to be part of that process. Still, even that is okay, because maybe at the next level they may come back.
Coming to just the 6th national election, let's be specific to this one. And what are the advocacy works that you have done to enlighten political parties so that they can engage more women?
One of the things we were voicing out is the issue of quota. We were hoping that political parties will have quota, especially through the election law. And of course that was passed by Parliament without having this article, because political parties refused to have this provision where it says political parties should have a certain level of quota in terms of bringing their candidates. So the next level was for us just to see how we can make sure that political parties bring adequate number of women candidates in their processes. So we have started to create dialogue with political parties. So in our project, the first thing we did was we brought them and we tried to create experience sharing from other countries. One country is Finland. And the second level was we sat with political parties. Of course, we asked for the leaders of political parties, but all leaders didn't come, but still some representatives and some leaders came. So in this process, we tried to identify what we can do. Yes, there is a problem. They agree that they haven't included women in their parties well, so, and they wanted to change that because having a diversified group also is very added value for the party as well. They believe that, but they say that it's very challenging. One is because women are not interested to come to political parties or to come to political arena. And the second is maybe the capacity issue. So now we're trying to work towards that, the capacity issue. And the third one is what we did actually today is to work with the media. Because unless we have the media with us, then we cannot really manage to do this alone because it will take a lot of effort. And some of the effort might be targeted towards the community, the public at large. So we cannot get the public at large, so the media can use that. So one of the things we want to do is, one is to ensure that political parties are really lobbied to come into their senses and say, no, I need to make an effort to bring adequate number of women representatives in my party. And the second is to encourage women through the media, to encourage women to come to politics.
Could you please precisely tell me your take on the representations of women in the political parties as well as their participation in decision-making, top leadership positions in the country?
The obvious thing is, of course, we have in the parliament, because of the last election, we have 38.8% participation in the highest government body, which is the parliament, the lawmaker. And then again in the cabinet, because of the latest decision by the government during the reform, is having 50% of the cabinet being women. And of course, more importantly, we have a women president, as well as women also being the president of the Supreme Court, and again, of course, election board and other institutions, very important institution. And even within a cabinet, that having women in areas where usually was held by men is also something new, and we applaud that. These are very good steps, I think. And in terms of political parties, yes, the EPRDF in the last election brought 40% of its candidates to be women, but most political parties didn't have many women as candidates. Now we don't know. Of course, there is a re-registration going on, so the parties are being re-registered, and we hope that in the re-registration process and in the upcoming election, we will see a lot of women as also members and candidates of the parties. But
a point here. You've been just saying that the parliament has not just decided to include some quota.
yes.
And this push has also come from the political parties as well. So if you say so, do you expect that those political parties which are just currently running for the next election will include or just bring women to the stage?
Yes, like I don't think outwardly, but if we take some actions to improve this, maybe yes, because one of the things we have to understand is political parties also need women, because if they ignore women, then they're not diversified groups. And if the community, if the public, or the voter also understand that these parties are only belonging to one type of, to one like to men only, if they are only representing men, only half of the society, then, and the rest would say where are women, then obviously in this respect, I'm sure political parties will really act on this and provide adequate number of women. That is my hope and my belief. But this depends on the job we do and the decisions that the political parties, the political commitment they take, because they need to go extra miles to do this. If you're just thinking of some people who are around you, and those people will be men, and if you think just having those men will make a party, then that's very wrong. But I believe the political parties, from the dialogue we had in the last months, I see that there is a will, an understanding of the need of including women in their party processes, and if the understanding that they have a gap as well. So if they accept that, and if they accept our work, our support, our partnership, I'm sure we'll get somewhere.
Then let's go back to the civil society organizations, which I mentioned earlier. Do you think that they are robust enough for supporting the role of women as well as just the upcoming election?
The civil society, yes, in the last 10 years has been very quiet, and because dismantled, I can say, because of type of registration, type of funding they receive, and only 95% of the civil society organizations were registered as previously registered as Ethiopian society, as 95% were registered as resident organizations, meaning they're not allowed to work on such issues like governance, election, democracy, justice, women's rights, disability rights, child rights, and human rights. So this has obviously made them a bit weak, because they have not been working on those issues. And just now, this year, we have a new law, and organizations, civil society is being re-registered again, including those, some of them including election issues, some of them including women's rights issues. So instead of just working like the last years in the areas of service provision, now they're starting to work on governance, on conflict, on peace, and so on. So my fear is that there is an interest of everyone to work on these issues, to be more organized, to be active, but the capacity is, I question the capacity and the experience, because we have not been very much engaged in this area. Most of them, at least for us, we have been engaged, but not in our full-fledged, because we didn't have that much finance. But for many of them, they have not been working on this issue. So that is a kind of transition that civil society has to undergo, maybe. But given the capacity, given the support from our partners, civil society is very much ready and willing to come into force, to be a force of change, and to be a force of directing the country's situation, political as well as economical and social. So robust, I cannot say at this point in time, but in due time, yes, given all the support that is needed and time that is needed for organizations to rebuild, to re-energize themselves, I think, in that terms, yes.
Okay, so do you think that there are some differences between the previous law and the newly revised law of civil society organizations?
Yeah, obviously. The previous law, as I told you, divided organization mainly into two. One is organizations which are Ethiopian societies and who can work fully on those.
Yeah, my question is just in terms of flexibility in just engaging such issues or entertaining the issues of politics.
Yes, it all depends on your objectives. Like if you say you want to work on election, on not politics, but like if you want to work in governance and on women's rights, which we think are kind of politics, taken as politics, then you're allowed to do that. And you're allowed as well to to take any type of funding from any type of sources. So taking this into account, I can say the space is very wide. The only thing you need to do, for example, if you are going to work on election, you have to identify that in your memorandum of association, specifically to say you have to work in election areas. So most organizations who had initially not working in this area are now trying to change and amend their memorandum in this regard. Otherwise, legally speaking, the room is wide. But we have still to go with revision of the directives, which is not yet done. So regulations, directives are yet to be reviewed and revisited. So we need also to be actively engaged in the revision process because sometimes the law may allow you, but directives may bind you or limit you from working. So the directives are as important as a proclamation. So we are trying we are getting ready to engage in this area as well. Yeah.
My last question would be just what are the ways out for engaging more people to the political participation and just bringing more people from now, meaning just more women into the top decision-making positions of the country?
I think for all of us, we need to take into account that elections happen at different levels. The national election as well as the warada and at different levels. So to ensure that at all the levels women are participating, then a lot of actors should be involved, like civil society at national level, community-based organizations at local level have to be very seriously working on these issues now. I believe what we have is an opportunity, but it's also a challenge because with the change of the political dynamics, having a diverse type of political parties on board, and then not knowing how it will turn out is an opportunity, but at the same time it's a challenge unless we make sure that each and every step we're involved, that women, not us, but in terms of the women being involved, then at the end we may not find them at all. And again, not only in that terms, but the political agendas. How inclusive are they about the women agenda as well? Do the women agenda make a party being elected or not? Are they very decisive? How can we make them major? How can we make them politicize them, maybe I can say, if I can use that word, because we talk about politics and then we go now for the women issues. But the women issue is a political issue, so we have to relate that perfectly, so they are at the core of the debates, at the core of the dialogue, at the core of the discussion. And mostly I think we need to mobilize women from the ground so that they are interested and they will be participating in the upcoming political issues. There was a representative from the NEWA who just came to our meeting for a closing, and I think one of the things she helped us see is that it's not only as candidates. Participation, election has different areas of engagement. It's also as observers. It's also as election management agencies, persons that are going to be placed in different parts of the election posts. In all this, women have to participate. It's not only as candidates, as party members as well. So as women organizations, we have to make sure that civil society, especially women organizations, are engaged. And they are engaged not only at the election day as voters and as candidates, but also in the process as well. Where is a women's agenda as election agendas, as debate agendas, and women also participating in the debates. Also what we see in the media now, now, even because even before the elections, there are a lot of political activities going on, I believe, through the debates, through the dialogues, through the meetings that's going on. So having more women also taking participation in this regard will really make democracy work in this country.
Okay. Dear Addis Dialogue viewers, this has been a program with SABA GEBREMEDIHN on the issues of election, empowerment of women, as well as the engagement of women in all political parties in the country, as well as their places in the upcoming national election. Thank you for joining us, SABA.
Thank you very much for having me.